All right, everybody, huge day in Tesla land. The new comp package for Elon Musk has just been proposed by Tesla's board. A lot to talk through. I'm going to get started right away. So here are the milestones for the new comp package. There are 12 tranches, essentially 12 different levels that Elon Musk has to hit with Tesla in order to get paid. This is what it looks like. It starts at the $2 trillion market cap mark, and it goes all the way down to the $8.5 trillion market cap. Right now, Tesla is valued at $1 trillion. And there's also operational milestones that the company has to hit, Tesla has to hit, in order for Elon Musk to get paid. I'll go through exactly how much he would earn. I will go through every single detail on this thing. This is going to be a very detail-heavy video, so if you're interested in that, please make sure to stick around because there's so much to talk through here. Here are the operational milestones: 20 million vehicles delivered, 10 million active FSD subscriptions, 1 million robots delivered, 1 million robotaxis in commercial operations, and then $50 billion of adjusted EBITDA. EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. Basically a really fancy word for how much money have you made. And adjusted is Tesla makes some slight tweaks to it. But it goes from 50 billion all the way down to 400 billion. And then again, the market cap goes all the way to 8.5 trillion. So the most notable things about this is that the plan is over 10 years. So Elon has 10 years to hit these milestones, the market cap and the operational milestones. And then if Elon hits any of those tranches, any of those levels, then Elon, when he gets those new shares from those hitting those tranches, he won't be able to sell any of those shares for 7.5 years. Each tranche is worth about 1% of Tesla stock, and there's 12 total. So essentially, he would get an additional 12% of Tesla as he goes through, which would bring his total ownership up to about 25 to 28%, as long as he gets the money from the previous comp package that the Delaware judge took away. The operational milestones can be hit in any order. So if we go back to the beginning, these aren't in order of like, hey, you got to hit 20 million first of vehicles delivered, then you got to hit 10 million. It goes in any order. So if the stock price is at $2 trillion and he happens to hit the, let's say, the 1 million robotaxis in commercial operation before any of them, he would get that first tranche. He would get that first 1%. But obviously the market cap milestones are going to be progressive. It's going to be in order because you can't get to 8 trillion before passing through 2, 3, 4, 5 trillion, right? If all of these tranches are hit, Elon makes $1 trillion in Tesla stock, while shareholders essentially make 8.5 times the money. The new Tesla stock price, if he hits all those tranches, would be equivalent to $2,700 at a roughly 25 price earnings ratio, which accounts for some of that adjusted EBITDA number that we talked about a little bit earlier. So basically what that means is that Tesla's going to be earning a lot more money, way more money as a company. That $400 billion mark is sort of that top operational milestone. But while they're earning that money, the market cap is expected to compress a lot, meaning that it's not going to go up in a straight line. Tesla and Elon are expecting the market cap to adjust so that the price earnings ratio, basically how much the stock market is willing to pay a premium for Tesla shares, is going to compress dramatically from 200 to 25. But investors would still make 8.5 times their money as long as Elon makes, hits all those tranches and the stock price reflects it as well. There's a lot of parallels to the first comp package that Elon got back in 2018, whenever it was, the one that the Delaware person, the Delaware judge rescinded, which is absolutely crazy, but it is what it is. A lot of people are saying it's crazy, this is impossible, this is nuts. They can't even get, 100 robotaxis in the road. How are they going to get 1 million? So the parallels are very interesting to listen. What's notable about the previous comp package is that it took Elon about, roughly 4 to 5 years to hit. I'm not saying this is going to happen here, but there's a precedence here that it's probably likely that Elon's going to hit all these tranches. And so I want to go through all the really notable things that are in this comp package. I think a lot of it is sort of underneath the surface. It takes a little bit of thinking through to really fully understand how the company is thinking about this stuff. And I want to go through those things here on this video. Now, knowing that a lot of you are Tesla investors, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Rebellionaire. Rebellionaire is ran by Matt Smith and Bradford Ferguson. If you're in the Tesla community, you know exactly who I'm talking about. They have an investment firm for Tesla shareholders. They do a lot of novel research in Tesla, as I'm sure you guys are aware. And they also employ tactics like covered calls or adding and trimming to help people with Tesla stock reach their goals from a financial perspective. So if you own more than $1 million of Tesla stock, and this is something that could be of interest to you, having a financial partner that's going to help you reach your financial goals while not giving you the cold shoulder and saying, this person's crazy, they have too much Tesla stock, right? they actually would understand where you're coming from, feel free to go to rebellionaire.com/Farzad, rebellionaire.com/Farzad, and that's how they'll know that I sent you. If we go back to the milestone look for the comp package, 20 million delivered vehicles, which is that first operational milestone. Again, it doesn't have to be in order, but that's the first one. The 20 million delivered is about a 2.6 times from here. They have about 7.5 million Tesla cars delivered thus far at the current rate of about 500,000 units per quarter, which is roughly going to take 6.5 years to complete that 20 million mark. Implies that the company is likely looking to sell a lot more cars in the coming years, because it would be silly to think that it would take 6 years to essentially slightly more than double the current fleet, especially since we came from a place where Tesla was doubling every couple of years with their fleet. This is actually a very interesting thing to think about, because one of the main ways that Tesla is going to get there is through this robotaxi platform, most likely, which is going to be by far the lowest cost per mile. And this is going to be the thing that really harnesses that robotaxi, that self-driving future, that AI future that the company is really going hardcore with. If we go to the next operational milestone, the 10 million active FSD subscriptions would be roughly 50% of Tesla's fleet at the first tranche. So if Tesla has 20 million cars out there, then half of them are expected to be on some sort of FSD subscription, which implies that Tesla expects FSD to be really, really, really good, a huge selling point. Right now, based on some of the company guidance, the adoption, the subscriptions for FSD is roughly in the teens, maybe the low teens, 11, 12%. So this means that the subscriptions for FSD would almost have to 5x over the course of how many years. But knowing that they're launching robotaxi in Austin, knowing that they've launched it already, and they've launched in the Bay Area, and they just made the app public to everybody on the App Store, I think the company's probably very confident in thinking, okay, we're going to get there, because if we can get a robotaxi network where the car drives itself without anybody in the car, by default, any Tesla car is also going to be able to drive itself without somebody paying attention in the car, right? So the technology can be put on either product, either the robotaxi or the car. And so this is a signal that says the company is very, very confident from their perspective. And we'll see if they can actually hit it, but from their perspective, that's the case. That's how I'm reading it. Now, the next thing is actually super interesting. So they have 1 million robots delivered as the third operational milestone, and then 1 million robotaxis in commercial operation. But then 1 million robots delivered, again, doesn't have to be in order, is listed first, which is, I think it's a very interesting thing to think through. Although it doesn't have to be in order, why did Tesla list it first, right? From my perspective, this probably implies that Tesla is farther along with their bot program than I think a lot of people realize. We can kind of see this in the proxy statement, which is where this comp package was pulled from. There was a picture of this bot, which I'm guessing this is probably the V3 robot. We can see that they've changed a lot of things about the shoulder. They've changed things about the elbow. They've changed things about the hand. And you can see sort of that hip actuator in there, or whatever gear they have going on in there. My gut tells me that Tesla has probably had some breakthroughs when it comes to production capacity, or really getting this bot thing to the level that it needs to be. And this is perhaps a signal that says, you guys, hey, like, this thing's probably coming faster than you all think. And you know, Elon has talked about there's going to be billions of bots, you know, in the world in the next 20 years or whatever. You can't get to 20 billion bots or 10 billion bots unless you get to 1 million bots first, right? So, but again, it doesn't have to be in order. This could be the last tranche. Maybe they hit the earnings number way before the bot number, but it's just very interesting to think through, why is that listed before the robotaxi? It could also imply the opposite, right? It could imply that maybe Tesla thinks they're going to have a lot of issues getting regulators to sign on with robotaxi, and they're saying, hey, don't worry about that. We're going to fill it in with bots. So that could be the opposite scenario, or like the really, you know, the really bearish one, which is all of this is garbage. But, you know, of course, that's silly from my perspective. Anyway, the next things we're going to look through are the adjusted EBITDA numbers. So they have the 50 billion to the 400 billion adjusted EBITDA. The top adjusted EBITDA number is about 2 times the world's current largest company, which is Saudi Aramco. The most, I should say, the company that earns the most income, which is about 200 billion. Oh my God, that was a nut that just fell from that tree. Did you guys hear that? Holy shit. That scared the shit out of me. I'm outside, you guys. The squirrels are at war with me. Anyway, the Saudi Aramco at 200 billion yearly net income would be about half of what Tesla's expecting to earn at its highest operational milestone for this comp package of 400 billion. Another way of thinking about it is that Nvidia, so the largest company in the world right now, has about a $4 trillion market cap. That company is getting roughly a 50 PE price earnings ratio, which implies a little bit under $100 billion of earnings per year. So if you're thinking about how to, put apples to apples in respects to NVIDIA, it essentially mirrors the 4.5 trillion market value milestone, while Tesla is at 80 billion to 100 billion of EBITDA. That would be very close to what NVIDIA is getting from the stock market right now. And so that would fulfill one of Elon's tranches, just to kind of help conceptualize what that would mean from that perspective. Now, if we're thinking about the top number here, the $400 billion adjusted EBITDA number, to hit that milestone, Tesla would need an equivalent, and this is sort of my own math that I've gone through. I've put out videos on this. There's, I have a video out there that is titled Tesla Robotaxi Will Make Tesla Trillions. I go through my entire robotaxi model in there. But if I take the assumptions from that model and apply to that 400 billion adjusted EBITDA number, that equates to about 3 million robotaxis on the road, operating about 16 hours per day, earning about $1.17 profit per mile. Tesla would be able to do that by charging roughly Uber prices at about 40 cents per mile of operations from Tesla's perspective, and that assumes a robotaxi to teleoperator ratio of about 100 robotaxis to one teleoperator. That teleoperator would be the person at the headquarters that's making sure all the robotaxis are working properly, and obviously there would be no safety drivers or riders in the vehicles, and that would also include deadhead miles. So about 40% of the total miles driven would be nobody paying a fare. So that 40 cents per mile would include about, let's say, 4 miles of nobody actually paying for a ride, so that's incurred cost. Uber right now has about 8 million active drivers globally today. So this would be equivalent to having about half the size of Uber's entire global fleet, charging about Uber prices, but obviously working all the time and not incurring the costs of having a driver in the vehicle. That's how Tesla could potentially get to that $400 billion number. A different way of thinking about it is also with the bot. So that 400 billion adjusted EBITDA number could be achieved in theory with about 3.3 million bots, human or robots, earning about $37,000 per year in profit, which would be equivalent to the low end US average manual labor rate. So like just, blue collar annual wage that people make in the States, and on the low end of 37,000, working about 80% of total hours in a day, which would be roughly 20 out of 24. Now, that's the huge deal here with the bots, right? So with the robotaxi, you don't have a driver, so the car can drive all the time. It doesn't have to take vacation and doesn't have to go to sleep. It just drives 24/7 essentially, outside of getting cleaned, maintenance, charging, and all that stuff. The bot will be very similar. The bot doesn't need vacation. It doesn't need to, take a break. It just works all the time. And so you don't need that many bots to do human jobs. It just comes down to the capability of the robot. But assuming that the bot can do tasks, then Tesla could get to that number with about 3.3 million robots. The overarching thesis here, the overarching takeaway from my perspective is that it does seem like Elon has many paths to hit all those tranches. In the same way that the original comp plan, we saw that he got there relatively quickly, and that whole lawsuit with the 9 shares came through. It's the craziest thing to think about, honestly. But a lot of people doubted that was possible. It happened. And so from my perspective, I think Elon has many paths to hit these tranches, which obviously would also benefit Tesla investors. If robotaxi works, if they can get to 3 million operational robotaxis earning that much money, by default, it's going to become the default mode of transportation long term, because the amount of margin Tesla has in that price per mile is immense, and nobody else can compete with it. So if, let's say, somebody comes in with a competitor, or Tesla's trying to go into markets where if they price it lower, they get a lot more money, then Tesla is going to be able to do that because they have so much room. So this implies that if Tesla can get to those levels, they're going to get to levels much, much, much higher because of how game-changing that technology is. The same thing with the bot. If the bot works and they can get to 3 million bots or 1 million bot, by default, that means that Tesla has essentially automated the production of labor, right? They can just crank workers out at will. So if 1 million robots work, 10 million robots are going to work. 100 million robots are going to work. 1 billion robots are going to work, right? So it implies that if those tranches are hit, that operational milestone is hit, there's going to be more. There's going to be more of them. The technology works. The AI brain is built to be super general and to learn like how humans learn. Humans can be drivers, humans can be factory workers, humans can be warehouse workers. It's just a question of like, do we want to do those jobs? Do we want to put in the work to learn those jobs? Do we want to earn the money that we would earn doing those jobs? A bot doesn't care, right? A bot doesn't have feelings. And so one bot can do all the jobs. And if one bot can do all the jobs, then the demand for a bot is going to be unbelievable. And then new markets will open, et cetera, et cetera. We're not even talking about energy, right? The energy side of the business with the Powerwall, the Power Pack, the solar, whatever, and any new form factors with artificial intelligence. If Tesla can solve for the robots and Tesla can solve for the robotaxi, by default, that means they have the formula to really understand the physical world from an AI perspective that nobody else can. So what new form factors are going to be birthed from those technologies? Drones, maybe, heavy equipment, new things we're not even thinking about, right? Very like niche-y, purpose-built robots for very specific functions. If they have the means of production from a robot perspective that could build other things, what other things could they build? I mean, this thing gets insanely crazy, right? And so I think the really cool thing here about this comp package is that it's sort of a signal to the market. I think it's a signal to Tesla investors. I think this is sort of, Tesla doing the right thing for Elon and making him right from a comp perspective, especially since he got screwed over by Delaware, and literally Tesla investors got screwed over by Delaware, because now you're putting a risk out there that says, hey, the guy, the world's best entrepreneur no longer wants to work for the company. It's like, okay, cool, thanks for doing that, right? So now that they fixed that, with this comp package, hopefully it gets voted on in November of this year, it sets the stage for the company to really hit that next stage of its path of where it could be, which is really capitalizing on the supply chain the company has built on batteries, on artificial intelligence, on manufacturing, and start birthing this sort of age of abundance that the company talks about. That's going to be unbelievable for Tesla investors, but I do want to take the flip side sort of stance as well, which is, if this is actually successful in the way that it could be successful, Tesla is going to start accruing a huge percentage of the globe's productivity in the form of robots. It will start as drivers and as human or robots, but it could also be a lot more. So what does that mean for society? What does that mean for civilization? What does that mean for people that want to do jobs? Right? Like maybe they have specific jobs they want to do that they have meaning tied, they have a lot of meaning tied to that job, but now a robot is doing it, right? This is where this is heading. And so I think it's very interesting to think through. I think given the company's track record, it's going to be very silly or very dangerous to bet against this happening, especially with the amount of momentum that the company has built up, the amount of sales that the company is going to have in the third quarter, which looks like it's going to be a breakout quarter for them, a record quarter. They're probably going to surprise a lot of people from an earnings perspective because of how much capacity they're able to push through their existing lines that they've built up and made more efficient, while this hoopla was happening with Elon in politics and people firebombing Tesla stores and stuff. The company hasn't stopped working. They've become more efficient. They've become better at building cars, et cetera, right? So I think the earnings are going to be surprising. FSD take rate is going to increase margins because the more people buy FSD, the more money Tesla's just going to have come through the bottom line because they've already done all the work for FSD, right? All the AIs are built, all the cars are built. So it's just essentially quote unquote free money coming to the bottom line in the form of subscriptions. And then obviously the human or robot is going to be unbelievably game changing, because what's stopping a city like Dubai, right? That prides itself in, not having any taxes and being extremely forward thinking and future, let's say, and then, having all this super futuristic technology. Maybe the city of Dubai buys 100,000 Tesla bots and then it's paid by the government. They just give Tesla the money, Tesla ships the bots, and then they just do everything for everybody. Hey, I need help with this bag. Let me help you. They're just bots walking all around the city helping people. That could be Dubai. Okay, so if Dubai does that, what other cities would want to do that, right? This is crazy. This is crazy, you guys. And it's all encapsulated in this comp package, right? This is the beginning of that future, in my opinion, most likely, because there's too many forcing functions, economic forcing functions, for that reality to actually come to fruition. So I'm going to stop there because there's a lot more to talk about. I want to digest the rest of it. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, tell other people about it, share it, comment, let me know. Thank you. Goodbye. It's a beautiful day. Hopefully I don't get hit by a freaking nut. These squirrels are nuts. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.